Lord, open the door for us.
I do not know where you are from.
But we ate and drank in your company, and you taught in our streets.
I do not know where you are from. Depart from me.
You and I are part of that dialogue. How much does that dialogue make each one of us, as we sit in our seats this day, squirm? Maybe just a little bit, as we allow these words to kind of seep into our hearts. After all, don't we consider ourselves to be good Catholics, faithful Christians? We attend Mass, we say our prayers, we find some time to be of service to others. Haven't we found a nice little compartment among all of those other compartments of our lives, a nice little compartment into which to fit our Christianity? Surely the Lord is going to recognize you and me as we knock at the narrow gate and seek to be admitted to the company of the Lord. And it's those others, those other people whom the Lord does not recognize, those who don't believe precisely as we do, or who just can't seem to do it right like maybe we do, who aren't like us. So how do we deal with this question that Jesus posed that day? Will only a few people be saved? And as usual, Jesus deflects the question. He takes it in another direction and says, you know what? The number is not the issue. We ought not to be fretting about who's in and who's out, and how often we make these judgments about who's right and who's wrong, who's worthy and who's unworthy, who will be saved. In effect, Jesus said, you know who will be saved? Those in whom I recognize a family resemblance. That's an interesting notion to play with. As we go before the Lord, will the Lord recognize in us a family resemblance? Jesus says to the people who arrive at the door and claim privilege just because they knew him and they even called him Lord, will not automatically enter. He will recognize those who come to the door of the narrow gate in his own face. He will recognize them because they are in him and he is in them. He will use this family resemblance, I would posit, if he sees in us his own eyes that saw all of those who were just unseen by society and ignored. If he sees in us his mouth that spoke the truth and was the voice of those who had no voice in society. He will see the family resemblance in us. He will see in our hands like his that reach out freely in care and compassion. And he will see a family resemblance in us, in those who just listen to somebody who just needs someone to hear their story. When we can't fix it, we can't manage it, we can't manipulate it, all we can do is listen. Jesus is the narrow gate, and Jesus is the pathway to the Father. And this narrow gate is an image for Jesus' way of living and his gift to give us strength, the gift of sacramental grace to do just that. And as his disciples, he gives us that strength so that we can forgive. Because to forgive is the narrow gate. If we wonder, what's the narrow gate look like? To forgive is the narrow gate. To serve by giving time and sharing our resources with those in need and sharing in our ministries here in our parish is the narrow gate. To put aside my own agenda, and we've all got our own agendas, just to listen to someone who is in pain. That's a narrow gate. To live a simple life, to have less, so that someone might have more is a narrow gate. To speak out for those who have no power, no authority in this world, even if it makes us unpopular, if we take their point of view, is a narrow gate. This is how our family resemblance is formed and fashioned and shaped and made more visible into the world. A few years ago, I was given a powerful example of what this actually looks like. And perhaps you've had this experience at one time or another. But one of my college classmates at St. Michael's College is a priest by the name of Father David Cray. And Father David, he told me this story, was a pastor of multiple parishes in the Charlotte, Vermont area and the surrounding area there. He's now the Superior General of the Society of St. Edmund. And this story has just stayed with me for all these years. Father David and I were classmates, and he told me this story, and he said, there's a man in this area around Charlotte, Vermont, who is notorious for asking for help from everybody. You ever run into somebody like that? And he would call the area churches, and he'd always begin the conversation with, "Remember me?" Well, yeah, they remembered him all right. And then he asked for money for food, or for a ride here or there, or for some other kind of assistance, but he was always asking and asking. And after a while, people got fed up. They just grew tired of all his requests. They said, "We're enabling him. He's just lazy and taking advantage of us." And one of Father David's priest friends said, "I'm going to continue to help him, and I'm not going to question." And he was ridiculed for being soft-hearted. "This guy's taking advantage of you. You're naive. You're a fool." And when he was asked why he continued, this priest said, "Well, all I can think about is that when I approach the narrow gate and I gaze upon Jesus, there's going to be this man sitting on Jesus' lap. And he's going to look at me and say, 'Remember me?' Lord, open the door for us."
Ah, yes. I see the family resemblance. Welcome home. Welcome home.
And may it be so.